You just want to get competent, good enough to get a base hit 2 or 3 out of 10 times. And also, just make sure you're wearing a really good jockstrap too. That's important when you approach. Welcome back to the How to Get a Girlfriend podcast. I'm your host, dating coach Connell Barrett, helping amazing guys get amazing girlfriends and doing it by being authentic. And speaking of an amazing guy, I have one on today's episode. I am super excited to be joined today by my client, technically former client, but my former client, we'll call him Charlie. His higher self name is Charlie Hustle, and that's what he's going to go by, Charlie Hustle, Pete Rose's nickname from back in the day. And Charlie came to me a while back with some issues like wanting to approach women but not doing it, some confidence issues, and he just wanted to meet some amazing, credible women and not do it as some kind of fake, toxic, fake bad boy. He wanted to be himself. And he's now got an incredible girlfriend. And he's here today to talk about some of his biggest lessons, some of the biggest changes he saw to help you find your girlfriend, dear listener. So welcome to How to Get a Girlfriend, Charlie. It's great to see you, man.
Connell, good to see you too. Glad to hang out with you again. Haven't talked to you much recently, but glad to hear you're doing well.
I feel like a college professor who's got like his graduate students come back to check in on their old professor. A romantics professor, you might say. But here we are doing office hours. So tell my listener how the heck you heard about me. I think it's a story that I love.
Oh yeah, that's probably one of my favorite stories. So I guess going back to the very beginning, my roommate for the last probably 5 years or so, he's one of my best friends. One day I came home from work to him sitting on the couch reading a book and just laughing. And typically like you don't laugh a lot when you're reading a book. And so I kind of ignored it the first time, but then like throughout the night as it went on, I continued to hear him laugh and he wasn't like telling me about it. So I just went up and asked and was like, what are you reading? And sure enough, it was Dating Sucks, but you don't. And started telling me about like different aspects of the book and some of the things that Connell had talked about. And so that led to, me waiting for him to finish the book for a couple weeks. I went ahead and read the book and just loved it. It was very relatable. I could connect to it. And at the end of the book, I sat there and thought about it and was like, well, I could take these things that I learned from the book, or I could take this to the next level and just see what's available. And so I reached out. I'm a salesman. I talk to people for a living. So I reached out to him and we connected on a call. And next thing you know, I'm a client of his.
Right.
That's kind of how it started. It was really cool. And, it led to a lot of great things in my life.
I love it. And Charlie Hustle, for those of you who are not 1,000 years old like me, although you're a young man, Pete Rose should be in the Hall of Fame, baseball player. That was his nickname, and you chose that. So I have all my clients choose a nickname. A nickname is not a strong enough word. Really, it's an identity change where I like a guy to realize, hey, you know what? You might think that you're not enough. You might think that you quote unquote suck, like the title of my book, but dating sucks, but you don't. You're an amazing guy. And I like all my clients to understand there's an incredible superhero inside of him, a regular guy who women are going to go crazy for once they meet that higher self. So we went from, I forget your lower self name. Do you remember your lower self name?
Ooh, I don't.
Hold on. I have notes here. The underestimated. Do you remember that?
I do remember that.
Yeah, the underestimated. And now you are properly estimated, especially by your girlfriend. And so in terms of you and I beginning to work together, what were the main couple things you were looking to fix? What were you feeling stuck with in terms of approaching, in terms of confidence, or anything else?
Yeah, so I'm naturally an introvert. My whole life, I'm a people pleaser, but then also like if I'm in a circle of people, I'm just the guy there listening. I'm not really the first guy like commenting, interacting with jokes and things like that. And so throughout my life, that's kind of affected my connection, at least I feel, with girls, because I wasn't always the guy that just kind of went out and talked to girls and went up to them. Sometimes it was just like, it was awkward. It felt uncomfortable for me. And so that was really something that I wanted to change, because when I was introduced to you, I was actually already in sales and forcing that introverted side of myself out, where like I was cold calling, interacting with people from a career side and sales side. And I could do that. I was learning to do that. But on the other side of, interacting with girls, that was a lot harder for me to do in at that time. So really, that was probably the biggest piece, is just learning first psychologically what I was telling myself that was not true about myself.
Yeah. What
But
were you
then
telling yourself
also,
back then?
I was telling myself I wasn't good enough. I'm not outgoing enough to connect with them. Or when I go up and talk to a girl, I just don't know what to say or don't know how to interact with them. It feels awkward, things like that. But, on the back end of my mind, I always thought there was a chance that like I had the ability to do that at some point. I would then immediately get flooded, like when I would get in those interactions, with the mindset of like, nah, I'm not meant for girls like that. Like
Yeah.
I can't get those types of girls.
So you would see a woman at a bar or the gym or the mall. How, when you wanted to walk up to her, but you couldn't do it? Gosh, how did that feel in the moment? What got you in your head? Was it about not being creepy?
Yeah, it was a mixture of a couple things. One, it was the creepy side. I was also just I would tell myself like I didn't know what to say. I would walk up and shake her hand and say, "Hey, I'm Charlie. Hey, this is Charlie Hustle," and not know what to say after that. I was always concerned about that next steps. And so that's probably what one of my biggest fears was at the time, just like not knowing how to communicate with girls
Right.
and take that conversation to something that I would like the outcome to be.
You just perfectly dialed in on the two biggest myths in all of dating from men. Beautifully. The perception that maybe I'm not enough, just bullshit. And also, I've got to think of the perfect thing to say, or else I might creep a woman out. So we got the internal story of maybe I'm not enough, which is a lie. You're amazing. Most guys are. And then, I got to say something perfect and incredible instead of, something a lot simpler. You did the wingman weekend with me where we go out and approach a few dozen women. What approach, what moment from that weekend stands out in your mind where you're like, oh, wait a minute, I can do this. And some women really like me.
My favorite part was it was a forced time that I had to do what I was told by you. I had to talk to whatever girl you told me to, and I couldn't sit there and twiddle my thumbs and leave. And so
Talking to
there
two
were
ladies.
two girls, I still have that. And I walked up to both of them. You forced me to walk up to them. And
Excuse me. You
and
consented. There was no gun to your
I
head.
did consent the night before.
You
Fair enough, fair
consented for the record.
enough. But I walked up and introduced myself. Hey, I'm Charlie Hustle. Nice to meet you guys. And it was just a
Yeah.
super easy connection. I think I had a couple other, rejections, moved on earlier in the night. But this one I walked up and it was really easy, really smooth. Both girls were interested. It was a great conversation. We probably talked for a good 5 minutes. And, throughout the course of the rest of the night, I realized you're not going to hit a home run on every one. You're going to strike out.
I love the analogy of baseball. Approaching is so much like baseball. You just want to get competent, good enough to get a base hit 2 or 3 out of 10 times. And also, just make sure you're wearing a really good jockstrap too. That's important when you approach. 3 out of 10 times, if you get a base hit 3 out of 10 times in the major leagues, you're going to be in the All-Star game probably, right? And do that over 10, 15 years, you're probably in the Hall of Fame, or at least, among the elite players. That means you are allowed to quote unquote fail 7 out of 10 times. But in dating and approaching, so many guys take the approach strikeout as, I guess I'm not good enough for women. Imagine if Derek Jeter struck out a couple times and just retired from baseball. That's what we'd never would have had, that Hall of Famer or Pete Rose or whoever your hero is. So tell me when you really started to feel like, hey, you know what? I'm not that guy I thought I used to be. I'm not that underestimated guy. Women are starting to really like me.
Throughout the weekend, I guess I'd say the weekend with you really pushed me over the edge because it really reiterated that mindset of go for no. Like go for the no because
Yes.
you're that much closer to a yes. And if you can train your mind psychologically for that, it's going to be way easier for you, one, but two, you're also going to become and look more confident around other girls just by your demeanor. And so the willingness to go up and ask and get the answer no, and then go up and ask again and get the answer yes, was enough for me just to feel that confidence.
The reason I talk so much about approaching women, it's not required. You don't have to do that if you're a single guy. Some guys prefer dating apps. Some guys get fixed up or meet women through work. But when you can walk up to a woman and be yourself, be genuine and not use weird, fake, bad boy pickup lines that aren't you, but also not use pure liquid courage too. When you can just walk up and be you, man, it's like it's a rising tide that lifts all these other boats of life. Women are going to be drawn to the value of you, not what you say. Huge myth I want to bust right now. What you say, as long as it's English, as long as it's normal human communication, that's all you need to do when you walk up. So hopefully in that moment, maybe that helped explode the myth of, oh, gotta say the perfect thing. I'm this introvert who's got to say amazing things. No, you can just walk up and really commit to the approach and something good can happen, right? Let's go back to the weekend because I want to unpack a couple of things. I remember how nervous you said you were at the start. Walk me through the start of the weekend. What were you feeling in your body? For the uninitiated here, it's a weekend program. I call it the Wingman Weekend, where we go out for 3 different sessions. I'm your wingman, helping you approach girls. I'm doing demonstrations for you, giving you things to say, go talk to her, trying to help guys. As I was telling you about the weekend, like in that opening little pre-brief before we started talking to beautiful girls here in New York City, how are you feeling in your body?
Well, I mean, I was definitely scared. It was different than anything I'd ever done in relation to girls before, but I was committed to it because not only did I commit, the time and money towards it, but also I was committed because I wanted to fix this side of me. And I've always been the type of guy that wants to be my best self. Going into the weekend, I had that mindset of I'm gonna, do what he tells me to do. I'm gonna listen and follow through. And the worst case scenario is it's an absolute disaster and I leave and never come back here.
All right.
And so I hope
I passed that very high bar.
Well, so that was the mindset going into the weekend. And then the first evening we sat down for dinner and, kind of talked about the ground rules and such. And the thing that really got me the most was I wasn't prepared for you to tell me that while we're out, you're going to point to girls you want me to approach without any warning. And I have 30 to 60 seconds to approach, or you're going to drag me over there and embarrass me. And that was a little bit nerve-wracking, not gonna lie, but it was what I needed because if you didn't threaten me, even though it wasn't really a threat, if you didn't say that, I wouldn't have done it probably several of the times, or I would have hesitated, or I would have missed my shot, whatever it may be. So even though I definitely can say I was concerned and nervous and maybe a little bit scared, I was excited for what I was going to learn from the guy who had been training me for the last couple months, and excited for what I could gain from it.
I believe I said, you're going to approach every woman I tell you to without question, as decisively as you can. And if you don't do it, I'm going to put you in a headlock.
Yep.
And I will literally approach the woman for you with you under my sweaty armpit. And I'll say, hi, this is my client, Charlie. He wanted to say hi to you, but he's too big of a pussy. So you chose wisely. Let's talk about your girlfriend. How did you meet, and what moments stand out in the courtship process of you and your lovely partner?
So about a year ago now, I moved from Houston to Phoenix, Arizona. And during the first few weeks of being there, I was introduced to her by a friend. And that first interaction, I didn't go into with the, interest of trying to date her. Like, I had just moved here. I was looking to get settled. But I also still reflected on my interactions with Connell and how to talk to people. And so I remember there was one time we were playing pool somewhere, and I just started to kind of flirt with her, kind of interact with her in a fun way, and expressed interest. I didn't actually ask her out, but it was actually purposefully because I decided I wanted to kind of use some of Connell's tactics and see if they actually worked for real.
So you were wearing a good jockstrap, right?
I was, yes.
Great. Get that Charlie Hustle baseball player coming out. Go ahead.
So I decided to enact or use the jealousy method to see how well I could make this work. And so anyway, long story short, there was a weekend actually I had a friend of mine coming into town, and I had no interest in her, but I decided to kind of use her as a prop to be around Rachel and think that, I was interested in her. We went about a couple activities that night. It was on a Saturday night, and I could see the demeanor in Rachel change. she became a little bit more interested, a little bit more talkative, and I noticed she would follow me around a lot after
Hmm.
that night. And it was all planned. I just obviously didn't tell her this. And so then I think a day or two went by, and I actually had already gotten Rachel's number, I believe. I'd already asked for it. But a couple days went by, and I decided to text her. Said, "Hey, what are you doing this weekend?" She said nothing. I said, "Hey, would you like to go to this?" It was a little theme park we have in town. And without any hesitation whatsoever, she was like, "Yes, totally interested."
Yeah.
And so that led to us going out for the first time. And then that's kind of led us to where we are now, dating for about 6 months. I can fill in the gaps a little bit more, but I had actually talked to her about that night after the fact, and like everything that she told me was true. Like she was jealous, and it made her more interested, and so, yeah, it was just really interesting because I kind of used a little bit of a push pull method. I showed interest to her a couple nights before, was a little flirty, and then brought this friend around. Yeah, it led to where we are today. So it was
Wow.
very cool.
Using the dark arts. I would say, yeah, she obviously felt a little bit jealous. I would say you were using something that actually is, it's not so much about I want to make her feel jealous. There's this concept called social proof, which is that when women see a man who is socially approved of by other people, then she might say, that's a very attractive signal, social signal.
Yes,
And when a woman
yes.
sees an attractive woman approving of you, that's called pre-selection. Psychologically, it means, oh, a woman will say, that attractive woman likes Charlie, therefore, or at least approves of him. Therefore I will like him, and or
Hmm.
at least like him more. So I don't think it was so much she's jealous. It's not like you were kissing this girl or anything.
No,
And
no,
I
no.
think it's like
I'd agree.
it's a really strong social signal. One of the reasons that approaching can work so well in a nightclub environment or a nighttime venue is you're socializing, you're meeting different people, saying hi to women. Even if nothing happens, other women notice that and they're like, I want to be with the tribal leader. I want to be with that guy who other women and people like. And that's just that's just kind of wired into our psychology. So I think that's
Yeah.
partially what was happening as well.
Yeah, well, I would agree. I would, now that you say that, I would say that was probably the primary focus. I wasn't trying to like upset her or anything, and
Oh,
I
I
think the
You're
social
the nicest
status was
guy in the world.
the primary focus there.
I remember I was in Vegas years ago taking another coach's program back when I was going through my training. And this woman, I'll call her Alexandra, we were in the flirty stage, but nothing had really happened yet. And then I went over to another section of this nightclub. I wasn't even doing it as a move, but I knew it was a good move. And I was hitting it off with another woman. Alexandra comes over and is like, hey, what's going on over here? And clearly was seeing the other woman like me, and that made her more attracted. So, hey, I
Hmm.
used it with good intentions. With good intentions.
Yep.
Uh,
I'll also say another thing I realized too, and I don't want to go on a long rant about this, but a lot of guys are just losers. There's just a lot of guys out there that are not motivated. They're not driven.
mm,
They aren't working. And that helped me realize I am trying to be all those things
yeah,
physically, mentally, career wise. And why wouldn't these girls want to talk to me? Would these girls rather talk to a guy that still lives in his parents' basement at 30 years old and plays video games all day? I'm
right.
not saying that's everybody, obviously, but somebody that is driven like myself, focused on growth, being a better person. I learned to tell myself, like, girls want guys like that. They're looking for the best version of guys and the best version of yourself.
Yeah.
So,
I was just talking with my personal trainer, Zach, about this exact topic, Charlie. We were talking about, because I work out a couple times a week. Look, I'm not a big muscular guy. Nerds on the beach kick sand in my face. Okay. But I work hard to try to be fit. I work on my business slash financial life, career. And there's three big, powerful pillars a guy needs to have handled if he really wants an incredible woman. Number one is he's got to be in touch with his enoughness, his worth, as we've been talking about. He's got to uncover his Charlie Hustle or his Connell fucking Barrett, my higher self name. The second pillar is fitness, physical and mental. You got to be somewhat fit, or at least be working on it. Feeling fit and vital. Why would a incredible, gorgeous, quality woman want to be with a guy who's smokes and is 60 pounds overweight. No disrespect to men who deal with that, but he's not playing at his top game. And the third pillar would be career. Just does he have a stable job? Does he have a plan for a stable job? So yeah, those three pillars have to be there, because if you want an incredible woman to be part of your life, she's got to see a life that's pretty incredible to be part of. Last parting shot. I'll take off my dating coach hat and put it on you for the last word. Parting advice, shift. What would you say to him? How do you give that guy hope and help?
Just know that you're enough.
Yeah.
You are enough to date who you want to date and talk to who you want to talk to. And you should not only, one, strive to be the best version of yourself if you're not only, but two, get out and interact with girls.
Yeah.
And just try it. Most of these girls you're never going to ever see again. It's just a one-off interaction, but it could lead to something long-term that even leads to a potential girlfriend with someone you meet in the marketplace just because you had the courage. So I highly recommend just having the courage to do that, because it'll not only help with your dating life, but it will help with every other part of your life.
And I'll say one more thing. And look, I don't want this to be an infomercial. In fact, my program is not enough for guys if they don't have their fitness and mental health relatively handled. It's not enough if for a guy who's struggling in his career, you got to have your shit together to have an incredible girlfriend. So how to get a girlfriend? Get your fucking life together as best you can. Those three power pillars are: you got to have your fitness, mental, and physical relatively handled. You got to have a career, a job, or at least the plan, right? You have to be on that path of career success, or just stability. Not a millionaire, just stability. A girl I dated briefly once said, "Oh, a guy with a solid job, he gives us a lady boner." Like, yeah, great. And then the third pillar would be, oh yeah, you got to get that self-confidence and be able to flirt and chat with women. So those, if those first two, if the other two things aren't handled, then please don't hire any dating coach of any price. They're not going to help you the way that you really need. But if you have those other things handled, then cool. Then let's get to work on your flirting and approaching confidence. And that's where the fun really starts, as you found out. Anyway, Charlie, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. And yes, like he said, if you do want to talk about how my dating coaching works, and you do have your life pretty much in order, I only take clients who have their shit together, because that's what women want. But if you struggle with things like confidence issues, not sure how to flirt, getting friend zoned, all those things that guys struggle with, just go to datingtransformation.com and we can talk. And if not, just come back for the next episode and there'll be more good stuff. Charlie, thanks so much for being here, bro. You're the best. And
thanks for having me.
You're my dream client. Thank you so much for being a great client.
Have a good day.
You got it.